Some more. Would you lead us in the pledge and salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
We're on over here. Yeah, this is a different system.
Is the audio working?
I think the audio is working, but
We'll go with audio.
As long as the audio is working, people can hear us if they're logged in. Oh, that's the other camera.
Yeah, this is a different view.
Right. Okay.
Cody, he said.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to 1D, approval of February 18th, 2025 agenda. Tonight's agenda.
I move to approve February 18, 2025 agenda.
A second.
Been moving second to approve tonight's agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Approval of the board meeting minutes from last month.
I move to approve the January 21st regular board meeting minutes.
That's it.
Been moving second to approve last month's minutes. Get it out, right? Any further discussion?
Yes, the only thing I have is on John Cerna's name, there's an S at the end of his name on this. On the item 1B and 1E, there's an S at the end of John.
John Cernas?
John's Cerna.
John's
You can
Cernas?
only handle one of you, honey.
You only get one S, I'm sorry.
Only one of John's.
I didn't catch that.
Okay,
Sorry,
You don't see him in there?
No, he's not there. Ask him if he's in here. But I'll see
Do
him.
you motion to?
There he
There
is. Knit him. Can I touch or what? I got it.
I got it.
There we go.
Okay.
yeah. Welcome, Brian.
Hey,
So we'll approve the minutes as amended.
yes, please.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Public comment? Seeing none. Moving on to reports, student council report.
Alrighty, I'm officially back. So, our first thing on our discussion items is reminders will be sent out for Spirit Thursday, but not this week because it is our FFA week. Miss Barella can vouch for me. I looked radioactive dad. Lime green hair. It was very entertaining. So there will be no Spirit Week this week. For our February recap, February 3rd through 12th, we sold Valentine's grams. We made 350 grams this month. We did not do a dance for kindergarten through 5th. Miss LeMay was out of town, and elementary did a cookie and tea party for capturing kids' hearts.
Oh,
Awesome.
Our remaining events, well, proposed events, so these are still on the board of we may do.
Mhm.
For March and April, we're thinking of doing either a family movie night or a family dance, or just a kinder through 5th dance. We're not sure which one, just something to do more community-wise. The March 3rd through March 6th is Dr. Seuss week, so we thought about doing a readathon with dress-up days. We are having a student council meeting next week to discuss all of the options with those. April through May is staff and administration appreciation week. So like getting gifts, making gifts, and passing them out to administration and staff. And then in May, the end of May, we always do a field day. But as current circumstances, we do not have a field. So if we
Right.
do that, we need to find a location. That is all we currently have right now. I think we're planning on doing probably another fundraiser, and I think it would be our St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
That is all I'm currently aware of.
Could be some shamrock grams, or
Probably.
make sure you go to the assessor's office, please, at the courthouse.
As long as I'm not in the ER this
Courthouse.
round, I plan on it.
I always try to take some, so if you guys need some.
Yeah. Thanks for letting us know.
Okay, next time I'll go down.
Well, in the field day, we have been talking about looking at going to one of the local spot parks and doing it there so we can still do something. And who knows by May, we have a field. I don't think we'll have it by then, but we could.
We might.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Back report?
Yes.
Oh, you want me to get it? Because you did have to, you were,
I was a little late that night. I had a parent-teacher conference, so I came kind of at the end, but it's basically, we were just talking about finalizing plans for the career day that we're having March 19th. We have 31 confirmed companies that will be here. Miss Kathy Barella put a schedule together to get the kids through all of the booths in a timely manner so they can see everybody. Troy and I did apply for the roundup funds. We're waiting to hear on that, but it should be $2,500 if we get it. That will cover the food, and then we need to buy a few more supplies, tablecloths, paper, stock paper to put tags out. That way everybody knows who they are. We're looking at either Subway or Schlotzsky's for lunch. That way we can just the box lunches. Universal.
the kids will still eat in the cafeteria. We'll walk them over for
Yes.
the cafeteria.
Yeah, the kids will eat there. All the companies will eat over in the gym with us. And that's pretty much what we're working on right now. We have another meeting on the 20th, 26th. I don't, yeah. So next Wednesday we'll have another meeting just to continue finalizing plans and get this going. So we're
Okay.
excited.
Good deal.
The other part we talked about is we did get our kids in the MASH camp with the hospital. We'll take approximately 10 kids. We're still working on the list. We're teaming up with Hondo and Mescalero to do MASH camp with them, and that's actually on the 18th. So it'll be, for some kids, it'll be 2 days worth of some hands-on career and information, and should be exciting. We're doing MASH camp a little bit different because MASH camp normally targets 8th graders, but because none of our schools have been involved, we want to target more of the upperclassmen this time around that are showing an interest in anything medical. And then as we keep going on over the next few years, we'll get it to where it's more of an 8th grade event. But Hondo and us are so small, if we just leave it to that grade level, we may not have enough to really do the rotation. So it really works best if you have about 10 per school going. So
Okay. Good deal. That'll be exciting.
Huh?
That'll be exciting.
it is. It's some neat things happening. So.
Any questions? If not, we'll move on to the principal's report.
I've got Ms. Burley's principal's report. She's at the administrator on duty over at the Hondo games. In case you're wondering why she's not here. Enrollment, we're at 150 total students. February 5th, junior high quiz bowl with the Holloman. February 5th, we also had FAFSA night. We had 3 families attend that. February 6th and 7th, we had parent-teacher conferences, 26 parents for high school. We didn't have the numbers for elementaries, but I know most elementary teachers contacted the majority, if not all, of their kids. February 13th, she talked about the Capturing Kids Heart tea and cookie party. February 15th, we had our FFA contest. We had, I think, 48 school districts here, 450 plus guest students, not counting the workers, the volunteers, our students, our people. It was a little bit down from last year, but not much. It probably wasn't bad that it was a little bit down just because of the construction and needing to move around for facilities, but everything worked well. Our kids worked hard. We got a lot of compliments on our students that worked it, and the burgers were pretty good. Burgers were really good. February 17th, yesterday, Miss Barella took 3 seniors to Las Cruces to Aggie Day to do a college visit.
4 seniors.
It was 4, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I thought
4
so.
with us.
And I'm sure she'd be glad to answer any questions about it if you want to ask her anyone on it. But it was good. It was a good group of students that went. So I think 1 or 2 of them would be interested in going there. Playing district basketball in Hondo today. We go to Mountain Air tomorrow. And then district tournament starts next week. There is still a chance that our boys could host a ball game Tuesday. It's a slim chance, but there is a chance. As we find out, I'll let y'all know. We have 4 students going to Quiz Bowl tomorrow. If they get done on time, they will get here just in time to grab something to eat and get on Suburban to go back to Mountain Air for a basketball game. If they don't get done in time, I think they're meeting at the corner of Launch Highway and transferring Suburbans. So joking a little bit on that, but it's going to be a
Sounds like it.
cross that. Capturing Kids' Hearts, the gurus that run that will be on site tomorrow, most of the day, going in and out of classrooms, giving us feedback, visiting with teachers, visiting with kids. It'll be really interesting to hear what they have to say with their boots on the ground, walking around. I know our phone conversations and the different trainings they've talked about were really kind of ahead of where they expected us to be at this time. Now that they're actually going to be in classrooms, it would really be good to see. 39 weeks, things kind of can hit a lull, and so them showing up at this time is a great thing. JV boys basketball tournament possibly Friday. I say possibly because we're down to 6 kids, and right now we have transportation issues that day. So that tournament may or may not happen. I'd like for it to happen because it's kind of some of our players that could stand some more playing time and some more games. FFA week's going on this week. Green Hands, the things that go with that. And we have our first judging contest February 22nd. And I learned just before this meeting, we have our first track meet March 14th.
First judging contest for what?
FFA, sorry. We go to our we hosted the first one. Now we start traveling next week.
Okay,
So,
February
sorry.
22nd.
Las Cruces.
They go to Las Cruces and then to TRC and then to Roswell
Is that
and
state
then back to
cruises?
Las Cruces, right?
That's the,
Cruises.
yeah, Cruces High, one of the others.
Sorry, they go to TRC and then they go to state that's in Albuquerque. So
Really?
yeah,
State's in Albuquerque this year?
I think somebody said that today. So
I had not heard that.
It's always been in cruises.
I know, it's always been inclusive, but I heard yesterday that they'll get it too.
Why? Other than ag school.
I know, which is weird,
I know.
I don't know. I wouldn't think so because NMSU's the one that puts it on.
Mhm.
Right. That's where the state FFA office is. I mean, you'd think it'd be down there.
They're having construction going
And
on.
maybe not, that's just
Rumor.
rumor, yes.
Wow.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. All right. Any questions on the principal's report? All right. Superintendent's report.
all right, construction update. I did to you this morning. They did not have all the contract. They got all the concrete. They got all the concrete in the A sector. They're working with getting the B sector ready and then C sector. So it's 3 phases to get all the concrete in the footings. They will do concrete, good timing because Mr. Howard's out Thursday. So when he's out, we usually don't have classes out at the CT building anyway with the sub. So we'll do them over here and they'll be pouring the concrete at the CT building on the remodel there on Thursday so that it'll have the weekend to cure. If you drove by the football field, the track is gone. The first layer of the football field is pretty much gone. We had a plan for PE during that time. We were originally told that once they're on site, they wouldn't be leaving the field and getting on the road and back on yesterday. And so while I was gone, teachers came up with a new plan. If they would have stayed on the field like they said, it was a great plan that would work. Yesterday, smooth as glass. Today, not quite as smooth because they brought in a big excavator that was coming in and out of the field all day long while we were trying to walk kids. So we're revisiting the safety plan on that and what we're going to do for PE. I watched all grade levels yesterday. Today, I got to watch 3rd through 5th go over there. Teachers have great control, have no concerns with what the teachers are doing. It's just that corner is just a nasty little corner where they're coming in and out. I've talked to the guy running the excavator. He shut down for a little while till we got the littles done with PE. So we're going to work on scheduling and maybe limit how many days a week they actually go to the gym for PE, and other days of the week they'll do something over in the playground area, in that area, for the next few weeks. The good news is for the next month, this is a problem, hauling out the old dirt, hauling in the new dirt. Once that month is over, the traffic there slows back down, so it should be a little bit less of an issue. But right now, we definitely need to revisit it again. Our teachers walking in 2s and 3s, taking groups of kids and doing a great job walking down the sidewalks. And but it was a little, made me nervous. And when I talked to him and he saw how little some of the kids were, it made the operator nervous, and he owns the company. So they're going to talk about it in their safety committee tomorrow. And then next week, I want to join them for the safety committee and just see where we're at on some things on that. That kind of brings us up to all the new stuff on construction so far. We have an in-person meeting tomorrow. PAC meeting we already talked about. Curfew, as many of you probably know, it did pass the city council last week unanimously. They did change the times. The times now, Sunday through Thursday, are 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. and Friday and Saturday they are 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. And they also changed the age range to up to 18. Once they turn 18, they're an adult. It's a little bit different, but some people brought up the fact that we have kids that are 18 still in school. So Airport Street, we had great support. Faith was there. Vanna White, Mr. Hemphill helped hold the poster. Presentation went good. City Council approved it unanimously. There were concerns from the community, but not so much about closing the airport as much as it was just questions on what are you going to do about other streets to curb the traffic, keep them slowing down and things like that. There really wasn't much that argued with needing to do it for safety. In fact, I heard a couple people say it's about time.
Yeah, they're
Speed
everywhere.
bumps and stop signs.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Oh,
Should
yeah.
be more.
Yes, and more to come on that. Our school, we do continue to work with our third-party attorneys on that situation. They have a plug-in that they're trying to make us run that has not worked as of yet. Shane got it to work today. We're working on that to see how and if it impacted our district. I'm going to skip legislative update for just a minute and come back to it. We'll skip number 7 because that's actually a discussion item. Number 8 is a mental health project. While I was up there this weekend in Santa Fe, we had a guest speaker from Cook Center. I don't think it's on y'all's stuff I've added since I got back from Santa Fe. Cook Center for Human Connection is a mental health organization that's funded by a grant with quite well funding, and they're trying to come into New Mexico doing study groups on middle schools to offer. Their goal is to end suicidal ideation, and those types of things. They're primarily focusing on middle school age kids. It's all free to the district. Her conversation was impressive enough. I at least invited her to come down and visit our school and meet with us and look and see what they have to offer and see if it's something we take advantage of. They do a lot of community engagement on this topic as well. So And then another thing I learned over the weekend is one of Carrizozo's finalists got inducted into the New Mexico State Hall of Fame over the weekend. Bobby Grimshaw got inducted for his football career. He was there 1963 to 1966. And so legislative updates. I had to apologize to Faith because I don't think I made a single breakout session, but it was a very beneficial 3 days up there. The first day I got to sit in as they, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, a study, a 6-year study. I got to sit in and see what other schools are doing as a part of that 6-year study. But then we got to spend time as a regional co-op with Harlan. There was 5 of the 6 superintendents there. We got 2 hours of his time. We literally went through every bill that involves education, piece by piece. We broke it down. We talked to him about pros. We talked to him about the cons. We talked to him about what we're for, what we're against. There were some things he talked to us about that enlightened us a little bit on some things. Good enough ear that one of the things that's up is classroom size, which I think everybody agrees the smaller the classrooms, the better. However, what people don't think about is if I, at Carrizozo schools, have 23 students all of a sudden, and the max count that can be in the classroom is 20. Now I got to hire another teacher and split that grade level. So there's a teaching position. Now there's a classroom issue because we got to have another classroom for it. Now there's this, now there's that, there's a lot of other things. And so none of us were against it. What we talked about is making sure there was funding to take all of that into consideration, especially people with brick and mortar issues that may need another classroom or may need another this. We also talked about on that is our state's in a shortage of teachers anyway. And so that, I know our district, not now, but there was a time in the last 4 years they would create us needing to hire another teacher in the district neighbored us. Right now, today, if it went into effect, they'd have to hire 4 IAs, 5 new teachers, and build 5 classrooms if it went into effect today. And so got to have those discussions. The person who's sponsoring that bill actually got on the phone with Harlan and me and Ms. Ferguson, and we were able to talk to them about that bill, and they pulled the bill back off to revisit and look at it and make some adjustments to the bill. It's still going to be presented. They're just making adjustments. The math bill that I had in here, Senate Bill 235, since I wrote that, it has changed the way it looks. We don't know how it's changed yet because they actually listened to us and said we're going to go back to the drawing board and look at some things. House Bill 65 is the instructional days bill. That's the one that deals with the 4-day weeks. There is a big push bipartisan to put that in the power of school boards and make it in law so that governors can't just do away, add, delete, or whatever. It becomes our responsibility as an entity. And then the last one on here that I really kind of want to talk about is the Legislative Finance Committee, Sonny, we got his year. He's the head of the Legislative Finance Committee. There was about 4 superintendents, myself, Corona, Loving, and Mascaro that got to crash a meeting with him. It went about an hour and a half long. And we were talking about the need for CTE programs in rural New Mexico and how can we get more certification in our kids' hands that don't have a Hobbs CTE building that teaches everything. It doesn't have a Carlsbad. It doesn't have an Albuquerque. In the middle of the conversation, the guy stopped us and said, how much money do you need? We were planning on having a conversation to build for next year. We left out of there with them telling about 1:30, you'll have us how much money you need to start looking at these programs. I have a meeting at 2:00. I need your information by 1:30. So us 4 and about 4 other superintendents went and wrote a bill.
Oh, nice.
Don't know that the bill, it'll actually show up as a bill, but we asked for quite a bit of money. I mean, to start up, to do the investigation, get it started, we asked for close to 20 million, and to really get it operational, probably more than that. Where it goes, I don't know, but we left the room with him saying, this is the type of stuff we're looking for from educators. And And I was lucky because I wasn't initially invited. I kind of got bootlegged in because I was talking to one of the superintendents. Hey, we're going to LC. You want to come? I was like, what are we talking about? They said CT. I said, sure. And so it kind of worked out well for us because it could bring, some of the things we're talking about is auto mechanics. So for a month, an auto mechanic teacher, for that month, we'll pay for that teacher to be here with a trailer with everything he needs to teach auto mechanics for a month. At the end of that month, he may go, say, to Corona, and we'll get somebody that comes in and does lineman for a month and does things that can get as many certifications in kids' hands. And that's really spitballing what we're talking about, but that would be an example of how. Or I hire an auto mechanics class that is set up with all the technology it needs, that when we're teaching it, Corona's sitting in the classroom with an IA being taught by our instructor, and then when they teach windmills, we will be joining by TV, and then on certain days, go there for the hands-on pieces. Just looking at a lot of different ways to get more credentials in our kids' hands by the time we graduate.
That's awesome.
And then the last thing, just kind of shout out to all the stuff on FFA. We had 48 schools, 450 plus gifts. Staff, this is just a few, Ms. Palmarez, Ms. Shivers, Ms. Howard, Ms. Kuzmak, Ms. Barola, Principal Barola, Ms. Roper, Mr. Howard, FFA students did a phenomenal job. The board that we're all around, and I give you credit for Dwayne showing up on here and helping cook, and you know, we appreciate y'all being up here and doing those things. Heard a lot of positive. The food truck that parked on the corner, I think I saw one or two people actually go there. They either were in here eating or they were also. And in the community, as Mr. Howard gets me that list, we'll recognize there's been a lot of our community that we're here in the community that work with our kids. I know the Fergusons that ran the livestock couldn't speak highly enough of our kids and what they had to do out there. And so all in all, I felt like the FFA was a success.
So the Office of Special Ed bill, is that gonna fly, or what was the
What is that?
pulse?
All right, I'm glad you said that, because that's what I'm not for. The Office of Special Ed bill is to try to solidify an executive order that she did a year and a half ago. The Office of Special Ed.
She created the Office of
Yeah,
Special Ed.
she created it
Right.
with an executive order. Didn't go through legislation, didn't go through anything. She did it right after the legislative session, actually. And they keep saying it's not punitive to work with, doesn't have that feel, but it's kind of one of those things where most superintendents agree that anything education related should stay under PED. Now, we think PED should be under a state school board, but this bill is to try to do that. I don't think there's any support from superintendents on it. I'm not sure where it's going to fall legislatively on it, but we give our 2 cents on it. It's
Okay.
it doesn't need to be a standalone department. So.
Can you expand a little bit on 256, the Teachers on Site Protection Act? What's that one?
Oh, the school teachers on-site protection is a bill to figure out how to arm staff members and put them on campus. And, that's one of those things where I personally don't disagree. Having somebody armed on campus helps. I think it should be an SRO. That's where my personal belief is. But that's that bill, everybody kind of skirted around. So I don't even know if it'll make it being pulled up in front, because when we were visiting with Representative Vincent, that one never came up in all the bills we went through. So I don't know if it's going to gain traction. It's funny when you read just the gun bills. There's one gun bill that's taking anything semi-automatically, and the very next gun bill is this one arming teachers. And so they kind of contradict each other. So but that's what that bill is about, where they have to go through specific training. There's guidelines that would meet with it, and school boards would have to approve it and okay it and fix some policies and do some things for that to happen.
What about these other bills you have listed here? Letters, training to help teacher prep programs.
So letters training we've been doing for 4 years.
Right.
When I got up there and learned more about it, this bill is really aimed more for our post-secondary schools for the colleges,
Mm.
so that when students are coming out with their teaching degrees, or they're coming out for an alternative program, they have a good head start on letters. Letters is one of the things that I feel like our state has rolled out quite well. They spread it out well enough. It's not all now or nothing. They give their teachers time to do it. I believe if it's done with fidelity, it helps reading scores. I mean, we've shown growth 2 years in a row on reading, and all of our teachers have letters training. There's a couple that have a little bit more to finish. They're not quite finished with it, but they've got a lot of the modules done. The math program that they were talking about was cramming the 4 years of letter trainings into 1 year of math. And that's why that one's being revisited. That's not practical, because it's the same teachers doing letters and doing the math training. Cramming all that on there is a little bit too much, too late or too short. The one thing that I brought up on both of those is with the tier 3 licensures. To be a tier 3 teacher, you have to have a master's degree. Well, a lot of people aren't going to get their tier 3 because between letters training, between all the modules they have to do, between the micro credentials that they have, they don't have time to go get the degree. None of those help them move up the pay scale. And so one of the things I threw out to the representatives and senators I talked to is doing this more like a CEU program, like you have to have as a social worker, like my wife has to have as an OT, where you're continuing ed all the time. Let's give credit for that. And once a teacher meets a certain level of continuing ed, whether it's a master's degrees or not, why wouldn't we invite them to be a level 3 teacher? Because if they're continuing ed in their profession to be better practitioners, we should be rewarding that. So, part of the reason I didn't discuss each one individually is because, like I said, once we got up there, we were handed, these are all bills that affect education. And quite interesting. I'll make you a copy and scan it and email it to you so y'all can look at them if you want to.
John just said he wants to read them all.
All of them.
He's gonna, then he's gonna memorize
It took us
them.
2.5 hours with
And then I'll quiz
I'll be
you
glad
on.
to. So,
I don't think
you know, the other hot topic one probably is the teacher pay, because they keep advertising that they keep talking about being 4% across the board, but it's not funded that way.
3%, right?
It's not even really funded at that, and it's the confusion is depending on where your pay scales are or what that looks like. Because the first thing you got to do is raise the teachers level 1 pay to minimum starting at 55, level 2 65, level 3 75. If you hit all the 4% there,
Then you
you're
don't.
done with your funding.
You don't get it.
Yet you still have everybody else that may get mandated with a 4% rate. So that one's being a lot of discussion about that on how it's going to be funded and how those things are going to do. And it actually may not be in legislative. It may just fall into the overall state budget.
The budget, yeah.
And so that one's kind of, but that's one that has a lot of topic. And then the last one that is Mr. Runyon's favorite over there is there's discussion on redoing the funding formula and what that's going to look like. So budgets are kind of slow to develop because we don't know how we're going to get funded on some things. And some of the things they're talking about help us. Some of the things they're talking about could hurt us on funding.
The other thing from the county side that we need to be cautious of is these tax credits that they're putting through, because that's going to affect how much the county brings in to pay the distribution to the schools too. So yes, it's a tax bill, but it's also going to come down the line and affect us too.
Right. So that's why those of you that are on the finance committee haven't been contacted yet. We're kind of
Chris, you're on the committee.
in a little bit of a waiting game.
we appointed you to that since you were gone.
That's okay.
Actually, John did it. We'll blame him.
I really appreciate that.
I'll get it, remember?
All right. Any questions for
Whoever's
Mr.
that
Patterson?
said got through.
You have school calendar timeline. Did you want to touch on that or not?
Well, that's a discussion item.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yes. All right. We'll get to it then.
I did look up the state FFA, it's still in.
Okay. I can't imagine them moving it,
So anyways.
especially when they have other plans for the expo. I don't know where else they would hold it up there, but there. Okay, thank you. All right, Miss Marie, financial.
I think Mr. Runyon's gonna
Oh.
talk.
Mr. Runyon, the floor is yours.
I can do it. I was just gonna talk about the bars, but I don't mind going through the packet.
Oh, I'm sorry, I could do that.
No, it's fine. It's
Okay.
fine. I was just looking at it and I wouldn't mind doing it, to be honest. So I'm gonna share my screen. I know you have the packets in front of you, but I'll share it just in case.
Okay.
So good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Patterson. So I guess the main thing that I wanted to talk about, and I was talking to the superintendent about this a couple days ago, but you will see a handful of bars, and you probably will notice the two decreases more than anything, because the increases are always nice. But I wanted to explain these bars. So each one of these bars represents a cash carryover bar, and the easiest way for me to explain that is when we do our budgets. So similar to what we'll be starting here pretty soon, our budget is due to the state prior to the end of the fiscal year. And so because of that, we have to estimate what our ending cash will be for each fund that's allowed to carry cash, if that makes sense. And so what you see before you tonight, all 12 of these bars 12 through 27, represent what we call a true up, which is when the audit is done and they actually audit the cash, then we know for sure what our ending cash was as of June 30th. And so what we end up having is what we call cash carryover bars, which is adjusting what we estimated to end the year with to what we actually ended the year with. We try to be conservative on this, though most of the time I like to see increased bars, but not overly large increased bars, because then that kind of implies that maybe we're a little too conservative in our estimates, and we don't want our estimates to maybe adjust any budget decisions that we would do for the next fiscal year. Looking at the rest of the packet, I don't think that was the case. I think Carrizozo looks like it's in a very healthy financial position, but I did want to explain that. And so I'll just kind of throw out two different ones. I'll throw out one increased bar and one decreased bar. So the first one for operational was an increased bar of $212,126. And so what that says to me is that we underestimated our ending cash and operational when we did our budget for the last year for this current fiscal year. Looking at a decreased bar, the biggest one being Fund 23,000, those are our activity funds. We overestimated our ending cash in that fund by $58,083. And why we did that, I'm not entirely sure. I think that either maybe there was a large expenditure that we didn't plan for when we did the budget that happened out of activity funds, or maybe we're expecting a large increase. But because it's activity funds, I'm not overly concerned with that as much as maybe if it was a different fund that we overestimated our ending cash. But those are the two biggest ones that stand out to me. And then just to kind of walk you through how these budgets or these bars are kind of allocated. Typically what I do is I look at current year expenditures and see where we need the budget. So for example, in the operational, we're adding 212,000 to our budget. And so looking at where we are currently with our expenditures is how we kind of spread this budget out to where we feel like that we might need it based off of expenditures year to date through as of today, pretty much. And so each one of these bars is all related to the same thing, where we are just truing up our estimated cash ending balances to what the audited financials were now that the audit is released. But before I move on, did anybody have any questions about any of the bars? Did that make sense what I said?
I have a question on the PILT payment. We underestimated it 80,000.
You're talking about
29,135.
Okay, yeah. So we underestimated our ending cash by 80,000. So we actually finished the year with $80,000 more cash than what we estimated when we submitted our budget to the state.
And last year's where they passed some legislative that affected how we would get it, which could play into that a little bit too. That's when they passed the percentage changes of who gets it from one area. So the school district that's closest to it gets a little bit more, the different things like that. I understand that correctly, so.
So that's where part of the windmill money is?
Yeah, and so I think the way to look at this is when we submitted our budget last year, maybe we expected that there would be more expenditures than what we actually ended up having, or maybe we underestimated how much money we would actually receive from those windmills, or those
I think that's
payments
the
of those
case.
taxes. So it could be a combination of both of those.
Right. Okay. And the same with the SB 9 money?
Yeah, yeah. So, and so typically I like to have all increase bars, meaning that we
Under.
balance.
Right.
Yeah, we balance a budget with less money than what we actually have, and then this is just like an added bonus when we get it. But I don't like it to be too significant to where maybe we don't buy something or budget for something that we should or want or need because we're too conservative. So these numbers feel pretty good to me. I mean, in my opinion, but that's typically what we try to do is we try to be conservative, but not overly conservative.
Right.
And last year was also for like operational, we had to increase the students, so we got the bonus in last year's budget
For
because
the
we had a
More
jump in-
students. Right.
Jump in students, so.
Okay.
Because we had that this year, so, had the other this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions on
Any
the
other
bars?
questions about any of the bars?
No.
And so we'll be going through this probably in the next couple months as we work on the FY26 budget.
Right.
And then I'll make sure to point out where we're estimating our ending cash for the current year so we can all kind of just see that since this is kind of fresh in everyone's mind. But I'll make sure to point that out. So next we have our disbursement listing. So this is all of the checks that were written for the month of January.
Yep.
I don't know if anyone has any questions regarding any specific disbursements.
No, we're all good.
Okay. And then moving on, we have our purchase order report. So this represents all the purchase orders that were opened for the month. And in total, we did 37 purchase orders in the dollar amount of $64,764.
Okay.
And then we do have some of our charts here, just kind of showing projected expenditures versus budgeted, current year revenue versus budgeted revenue. I like to look at this because this gives you an idea of requests for reimbursements being submitted. So you want to see those revenues coming in, meaning that we are submitting those requests for reimbursements timely. Next, we have our yearly expenditures showing year by year comparison, month by month. It actually looks like for the month of January, we actually spent almost 100,000 less than we did in the previous fiscal year. Not really sure as to why that could be, but I'm sure there's various reasons on that. And then we have our pie charts. I like to look at these because it gives you an idea of where our budget is being allocated. And so all funds, and keep in mind that this includes capital outlay, debt service, about 47% of our total budget, all funds is being allocated to salary and benefits. And then all funds, again, 51% of that is being spent on instruction or instruction support. We have our cash balances, just kind of showing the cash year to year, month to month. It does look like for January, we did dip a little bit below where we were in the prior fiscal year, but an operational fund cash liquidity of 7.26 is very healthy.
Explain the liquidity.
So that kind of represents like if all things went, I don't want to curse, if everything went If we needed to use our operational money, we could cover 7 months of expenditures,
Right.
using the money that we have in our cash balance.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Sure.
Everything went south.
Right.
There you go. Next, we have our cash balances. This will change after we get these bars put in, but this just kind of shows by fund, beginning balances, increases, decreases. So again, I would look at this to kind of get a picture of where our funds are being spent and that request for reimbursements are being submitted. And so a lot of these funds will end the year with zero cash, those being our reimbursement funds. I won't spend too much time on this, but this is just kind of showing the ins and outs of cash by fund. And then here's all of our activity funds.
Most of the negatives are because we haven't received the reimbursement yet, right?
Exactly. So food service is a good example of where those kind of tend to be on a little bit of a lag as we submit claims for the prior month, and the USDA is a little bit slow. But then, yes, so like Title I, what this says to me is we have about 34,000 in RFRs that we are either waiting on or need to submit to the state to get reimbursed.
Okay.
We have our revenue report. Again, just another report that kind of will give you a picture as to where the money coming in is and where we are needing to maybe do some reimbursements. And so see, Title I is a good example. So this tells me that year to date, we've received 172,000. So that tells me that reimbursements are being submitted timely. I haven't looked to see, but we try to do it monthly. So this is, to me, looking good. Some of these will be from the prior fiscal year. So like SR3, you might see on here, either we had some money that we needed to spend down in the current year, or we had a big request for reimbursement that was maybe as of June 30th that we received in the current fiscal year. And then lastly, we have our expenditure report. This one probably gets a lot more attention. This will just show you our budget balance, year to date, any amounts encumbered, and then what we have as a remaining budget balance. And so again, this is a good tool to look at. I can see right away maybe some of our activity funds, and it's not uncommon for activity funds to run a little bit negative. Maybe they're doing a fundraiser, maybe they've got some cash coming in, but we do like to keep an eye on these activity funds because the way the activity funds work is their budget typically is however much cash they have. So we will just keep an eye on these for sure.
So theoretically, we should have about 25% of the budget left.
Well, and I guess as I say that, I guess one thing I will point out is PED requires us to submit the budget for Fund 23,000. They don't have a 23,503, 23,504.
Right.
Those are internal fund numbers that we use to identify which activity fund that is. And the budget all sits on one fund, being 23,000. So while this might look like it's negative, it's probably really not. It's just because the budget is sitting at the fund level that PED requires us to use. So I apologize. I mean, these look like they're probably over budget, but in reality, the budget's more likely than not sitting up here in this line rather than being spread amongst the funds that PED does not recognize.
Right.
So I apologize for that. And then lastly, we have our bank recs. I'll just go to the statement. So it looks like we ended the month of January with 3.4 million in our operating accounts. And our activity account, it looks like we ended the month with $119,362. And that is it. I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Runyon?
No.
Well, thank you. You must
Yeah,
have
thank
explained
you.
it well.
I apologize if I went through more detail. Every school is different, but if there is ever anything that we can add to the report that you want to see, then you just let us know and we'll tailor these to however you would best
Kelly's gonna have a long list for you next time.
She just can't wait to see more
I want
reports.
more.
I'll send her a spreadsheet or two.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Runyon. Moving on, approval of consent agenda items. We need to pay our bills and approve the budget bars.
I move to pay our bills and approve the budget bars.
Been moved and seconded to pay our bills and approve the bars that were just presented to us. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Okay.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Discussion items, graduation plan.
So, as we talked about way back when, class of that will be freshmen next year have new graduation requirements that the district is charged with coming up with. We are working on a rough draft to get in front of our parents. The irony is many of the things that they've given us freedom to do differently, we don't have much freedom to do differently. Prime example is Algebra 2 is not a required class to graduate anymore, but you still have to offer it. Well, with our limited number of class periods we can offer math, we can't really do both based on what we've got put together right now for staff. So math could stay the same. We're having conversations with Ms. LeMay and some different things. Do we move Algebra 1 down? Can we move some things down and offer second math class? But then you end up with a hole the senior year for kids that may be going on to college. So there's a lot of things on that that's having to be discussion. That's just one. Social studies, the change now, instead of 3.5 credits, you have to have 4 credits. And New Mexico history can be filtered in and through some of those classes, but it can be a year-long credit. It's still only worth a half credit if you offer it, which now moves health somewhere because it's always been tied in with part of New Mexico. We have to have a 2-class pathway. The good news is we already kind of do. We have the intro to ag and we have applied ag for freshmen and sophomores. We can continue to use that as our 2-credit pathway that we have to have. We've talked about adding some electives because we get a bottleneck. There's just only so much things our kids can do and look at that. So as we continue to work on this, we'll keep y'all in the loop of the conversations. When we get done with the career day, we'll bring this to Pat, get some input from Pat, get their input on some things. Hopefully we kind of have a little bit better understanding of what's going on. But we'd like to have it for y'all to approve no later than the June board meeting so that we have it ready July, August when we get things going for the next school year, because it absolutely impacts our incoming freshmen. A lot of small districts are having the same problems. There's just not a whole lot of wiggle room because we're limited on how much we can offer on that aspect.
Do we have to have financial literacy too?
Well, the good news is for us, we already, all of our
Okay.
kids take financial.
Okay.
Maybe not 100%, but almost all of them do. That rare kid that takes a college math class their senior year, they may not get financial lit under our current. Going forward, I would like to suggest it's a requirement. I think it's probably the most important math class we teach.
I agree.
I was walking halls today and saw some financial lit posts all over the walls with they're doing with some bank accounts and some different things. So it is definitely being taught to right now probably 100% of our kids, but almost always to most of them. It's just in case we have a student taking college algebra at the university, that could be the exception because that would be their 4th credit instead of financial lit. Any questions on graduation? Ready for the next one? So the next discussion item was the school calendar. We've started working on that. We have a committee of 3 teachers, 1 from each middle school, elementary, high school, and then Ms. Burrows are on it. And I went in the first meeting, gave them some feedback on some things that I think are important for us to include next year. First of all, we can keep the 4-day week. Some of those things will stay the same, but some things that we absolutely need, because even with what we did this year, it wasn't enough time. We've got to have some more PLC, BD, and staff time. to meet. You just absolutely have to have it. A couple options. Well, one option that I threw out, I came back with a couple more after being in Santa Fe last week, going to that 6-year study, saw what another school's doing. One option was one Friday a month is a PD day. Staff comes in on that Friday. We use that day for PD. It would work out to about 7 extra PD days, which is good, but they're spread out about once a month. I say 7 because August, you already get several PD days. January and May are months that just adding a day's kind of hectic anyway. The other option that I picked up from another school district is every Wednesday, they get out of school at 4:05, so from 4:10 to 5:10 every Wednesday, all staff is there. It means all practices start after the meeting's over, so coaches are there, and they do PLCs, their PD, their staff meetings every Wednesday. And then another option is a combination of both, where we do the Wednesdays and we still have a couple of Fridays in there to come do some things. So those are things that they're working on and looking at. Hope to have a calendar to y'all for approval in the next meeting, or at least for feedback, so that if you want changes, we've got till April to get it made, because I know he needs it for our budget. And so, much like this year, I've heard a lot of positive on trying to limit how many times our kids are in school on Friday. We just go to school on Monday holidays, have the Fridays off. Our attendance is better on the Monday holidays than they were when we made up the holiday on Fridays. Kids people have their routines on their Fridays, and we don't see much. So that's kind of where we are on school calendar. I'm open to anything y'all want me to put in front of the committee, but things as a whole won't look too much different. We are working with other school districts for one of our return PD days to be all staffs together at Region 9. And that would be the week before the fair, where we all go to Region 9. They will furnish the trainings. We did get the guest speaker that several of us heard in Albuquerque a couple of NMSBAs ago. That is a phenomenal motivational speaker that's going to be our keynote speaker and offer some classes. So that alone makes it worth us going up. The trainings will be equally as important.
June 30th, right?
Huh?
The date's June 30th for that?
July 30th.
July 30th.
July 30th. We need a
At the
little bit
convention
of
center?
Huh?
At the convention center, right?
They're trying to get it all at the convention center. There may be pieces that aren't there. For example, they'll offer our Suburban and 8-hour bus training that they have to go to every year. That's something that they can offer up there. So that might be at a different location. But they're trying to get as much of it at the convention center as possible. So.
Questions on the calendar? And once you get a solid rough draft, then you get buy-in from all the teachers, not just the 3, or
No, yeah,
how does that work?
They are supposed to be meeting with their
Their own
groups and
people.
getting
Oh,
feedback back. And then if we come up with more than one calendar, which typically is nice to have too, then we put it out and let them vote on it.
Okay.
And do that. It's like I told them, I'm here year round. It's really, I'm here all year. So it's you tell me what your pleasure is, but the PD, the PLC, as we move into, one of my goals for next year is to attack the data piece like we attacked capturing kids' hearts this year. We're going to need the time for teachers to meet and discuss and not just collect the data. We're collecting the data. I'm not sure we're using it to inform instruction at the best that we could right now. And I think that's our next step in the classroom, is using that data to inform instruction. And that's where we'll get even bigger gains in growth. So.
Okay. Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to move into executive session.
I move to go into executive session.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to go into executive session, and requires a roll call vote. Mr. Barella,
Yes.
not getting married. Miss Zamora,
We're going to your death, either one.
Miss Zamora,
Yes.
Mr. Cerna,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So let the record show we went into executive session at 6:59. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Runyon.
Ron.
Jeff, you gotta